Okay. It's saying that we are live, friend.
I am so excited that we are, Crystal. First of all, I want to thank you for asking me to join you in this glorious conversation
Girl.
about, the guy that we are all just love talking about right now. Love.
Oh, they got me.
LOVE, like Love Island, like we love Island talking about right now. So thank you for having me.
Of course, the guy we love to hate, some of us. Yeah, thank you for being here. It's been a while and it was so funny. My uncle had hit me up and was just like, "Why don't you go live anymore? Like, where are you? Where's the shows?" And I was just like, "What are you talking about?" And then I was like, "Oh," he was like, "Yeah, I enjoyed that. The way that you talk about like pop culture and give your opinions. You're like, you just should keep doing that." And I'm like, "All right, fine. If someone's listening, why not?" All right. So, and I think that we've had some great conversations. So yeah, let's keep going. And I learned a lot from you too.
Oh, thank you. Same.
So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're here to talk about the diddler. All right. So where do we begin? Let's talk about, I don't know, what were your thoughts about this man before all of the allegations even started?
That's a great question because I'm a Gen X woman, born and raised in New York, Harlem specifically. And so the diddler is someone, like everyone else who was in New York during a certain time period, that was someone who was pretty familiar to us. But oddly enough, before this happened, I hadn't thought about him in years because I wasn't one of his followers on Instagram when I heard that he was dispensing all of this yogi type peace and love vibration type post on his page. I wasn't there for that season. So it wasn't until he started dealing with Young Miami that he landed on my radar again. And I was like, whoa, wait, where he been? Right. So that's pretty much, that was my rapport with him prior to all of this coming out. And, it was just like, okay, that's, he's trying to be relevant by messing with, Young Miami. That's my report before all of this happened. How about you?
Understood. And by the way, you all, we did not plan this outfit. We are like twinsies on accident. But that's just how the frequency goes, you know. Uh, okay, so I was in love with that whole shiny suit scene, right? Back in the day in the 90s. And um, you know, I was cool with him, it was all good. And there was even a point when I did live in New York City, and I think it was either the club Cielo or APT down in the meatpacking district. And me and my homegirl Jazz was just dancing, it's like the basement portion of the party. And here comes Diddy. Like Diddy literally Diddy bopped through the party. And we was like, that was so random, like being with the common folk, right? So
That's fine.
it kind of
Yeah.
gave me like, okay, Diddy is cool. He had a little smile on his face. But, Diddy liked to party, right? So that was cool. But then, like over the years, as YouTube started to get like popularity, I started to watch these videos and started to hear of like these possible allegations that he had something to do with Biggie's unaliving or
Oh, yeah.
Tupac's unaliving. And so
Mhm.
there was a guy, his security guard named Gene Dill, that was giving these interviews and talking about like all the shenanigans he was going through with Diddy. So
Yes.
I watched these videos for years, and then kind of hearing the also the accusations of Diddy withholding certain I guess what would you call it when they for the for music, um withholding the what's the word for it.
The record release parties, the
Um,
what? Oh,
Obviously,
oh,
all of his artists were like shamed by him, so
yes,
royalties
the
and
royalties. Yeah,
credits and things like that,
yeah.
and everyone started to like come at him. So now I'm starting to look at Diddy with the side eye, right? And then bam. I saw that the relevancy was there, you know, when he started to date Young Miami as well. So,
Yeah.
um,
And
yeah.
and you know, Crystal, he wasn't a likable person, you
Mm.
know? And that's something that I'm sure a lot of people are now really kind of like doing the math or running the numbers about, because even though I think that, well, I don't know what his legacy is going to look like anymore. But it's like, wow, he is the reason for so much of hip hop culture from a specific time period, you know, and at no point in his rise to stardom was he ever really considered a nice guy or a
Mm.
well liked guy. So I'm just throwing that out
I
there.
mean, I think it's a good little 2 cents to add. And everybody who's watching, please feel free to drop your comments. We want to
Yes.
know what you think too. I know there's a myriad of different points of views that we're coming from and different backgrounds. So please drop your comments, and yeah, we'll address them as well. Um, so yeah, you're right
Yeah.
about that. And then what that also makes me recall Wendy Williams, right? Because where's Wendy Williams when we need her?
Oh,
And her allegation of him saying, hey, you know, this guy got me fired from the radio station, and she had to go back to Philly or go to Philly to work. He ended her career, you know,
yeah.
and for that time period as well.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
I mean, there's been looming rumors all over the place. So I wasn't at all shocked when these allegations started to come out. But what did hit me hard was the Cassie coming out with all of her allegations. And
Are you talking about the original lawsuit, the first lawsuit in November?
yeah, it opened the floodgates.
Yeah. Yeah. When the lawsuit hit in November, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised because, you know, Puffy Diddy, he's a Gen X man. And
Mm,
I have a very specific opinion about Gen X men in the music industry. And so beating up women or abusing women or using women, that was normal.
mm,
It wasn't unheard of. You can play any record from any time, you know, in that period, and it was glorified. You know, when men were very proud of the fact that, you know, they sexualized us, they had no respect for us, and they treated us like, you know, or they rapped about us, you know, in very derogatory ways. So I wasn't surprised with the Cassie allegation, but I was surprised at the Cassie
mhm.
allegation because it was
You
just like,
know,
wait, wait, but wait, you're rich and successful. You're doing what?
right. You're right. And that's a good point. Because when you think about, and I don't even like to call her this, but we know of her by this name, Superhead, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Corinne Steffens, when she
Yeah,
wrote the book about the industry, it definitely was something that was normalized. And you know, part of what I do in diversity work is like trying to unnormalize those things that have
yeah,
been primarily toxic, but we've been accustomed to think, oh well, everyone was doing it, because you hear some celebrities coming out right now and they're just like, he's not the only one to have these parties. Like this is what we've
yeah.
been doing, you know. So they, in their minds, is like, yeah, this is normal. But the point of where we are now in 2024, and even the
Oh,
brink of it changing in 2020, when we started to walk this diversity and equity inclusion world, it's like, no, we're putting a stop to that because it's not
it
normal,
wasn't right. It wasn't okay.
abusive.
It
And when I
wasn't.
think about all the topics under DEI, like this one crosses like race, it crosses sexism, sexual
Mm,
orientation, because there's the talk about that. Even so, like the misogynoir that we just talked
yes,
about, you
yes,
know, being okay with that, and also socioeconomic status, because you have this powerful mogul who has all this money, therefore his ego has been engulfed in this power to think that, hey, I could do whatever I want to do and I'm invincible, and
yes.
you know, taking advantage of people who don't have that status, right? Let me
Yeah.
say real quick, hey Lakia, Yes, she also agreed with you, saying that I never heard anybody say that Diddy, he's a sweetheart. Okay, so she's
Okay.
co-signing that. I got Devin in the house. Greetings, everyone. BHS all day. Puffy wasn't. He was abusing his position and
Hmm.
credentials, just like Dave Chappelle said. Don't make me laugh with the Dave Chappelle, but like you're right.
That's a
You're right.
good point.
Hey, cousin Carrie. Yes, but
That's
go
a
ahead
really
on
good.
with the sound
Yeah,
off.
that's a really good point. Abusing his position, abusing the power, um, that that arrogance, right? That power. I'm going to say arrogance. To me,
Mm,
that was on full display when the lawsuit from Cassie hit, and then immediately it was settled. And then there was this note, this narcissistic type note afterwards that said, "Well, Cassie, I wish you and your family well. Take care. Love." Whoever he wrote it, and I was just like, "Ooh," I was mad. I was so mad.
Why were you
I
mad?
was mad because when the details of her case hit the airwaves, I was like, finally, finally, finally bring this guy and every other man like him. Because to date, R. Kelly is still the only MF coming from that era, right? Who has been, who was tagged for what he's done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but R. Kelly was not the only guy who was doing, who was uh, entangled in indiscretions. I'm just going to say indiscretions because I don't want to get into the details of it.
Mm,
So when the details showed up for Cassie, I was just like, how is he going to defend this? He's going to have to defend this. And now
mm,
we're going to hear more stories. We'll have more context. So that's what I was really hoping for. So when he just paid it off, I was pissed because one, um, the details will now be stifled and he would kind of like get away with it. And two, what a slap in the face. I felt that was a slap in the face to
mm.
that woman who clearly was a victim, and also to any woman who at the time they no other woman had come up. So when he paid it off, I was just like, now we can't hear the details. And now what about everybody else? Because I know Cassie wasn't the only one. So that's why I was pissed that he paid it. And because, you know, I'm part of the peanut gallery, I was just like, well, he's guilty anyway.
Fair enough. Well, I like to segue into this, right? Because there's this rhetoric online that says, okay, what about blah, blah, blah? What about Donald Trump? What about with Jeffrey Epstein?
Epstein, yeah.
What about Weinstein? And I call that whataboutism, which means to me that you are deflecting from what's in front of you, right?
100%.
You're not addressing the topic at hand. You are
Stay on topic.
and asking about someone else as if
No,
both of these motherfuckers don't deserve it.
right.
Like, so what do you think is, because I'm finding that there's an obsession with these musical characters that we're holding them in such a high regard. Like, what is that about? R. Kelly too.
Yeah. You know, I wish I had the answer. I guess I don't know. I guess I was telling a friend recently that Puffy is like, he might as well be a hologram to me. Like, he's not in my real life. He's
Mm,
not an actual person who I care about and love dearly in my real life. He is a character, he is a human who has existed for a lot of my life, but through a screen, you know, like
mm,
television, TV, what have you. So I feel like we can easily exalt people when we're just like this and just watching, you know, all the good things. Because again, celebrities, especially during his time period, pre-social media, we were only getting the shine and the gloss. We were only getting the good things. We were only getting, you know, the marathons and the charitable events and all, you know, all the positive things. So I think it's easy for us, you know, to not only create these stories around the people that we adore or admire from afar, but we also develop these, you know, relationships or a personal rapport, if you will, with the celebrities, through their music, through their art, through their life's work. You feel like you know them and all of it. So
it reminds me of the conversation that you and I had when we were talking about the Nicki and Megan debacle. Ooh,
sorry. I'm sorry, girl.
Ooh.
I can't, that N word, I just can't.
I
Okay.
get it by the week. But anyways, I digress. But we talked about stan culture, and it's almost kind of giving me a hint of stan culture. But I'm also wondering, when we have these Black successful men who come up the ranks, they came from nothing, allegedly, to establishing themselves as these, these rich people. Are we looking at them as like an inspiration? We're looking at them as, what, if he did it, I can do it too. Or it's someone that we can hold and praise an icon as an icon, to kind of represent like this liberation of something. Like, I'm just trying to understand why are we so like, oh my God, say it ain't so. It's not Diddy. Let's talk about Epstein. Like,
well, I mean, Black people, we don't want to hear nothing. Like, don't do nothing to our people that the other people are not getting. Like, we don't want to hear it. As soon as one of ours comes up to the front of the congregation, we're going to automatically be like, well, that's not how it happened with XYZ. That's not how it happened. No, that's not how it happened. And it is not fair.
Right.
It's not fair. It's not fair. It's never going to be in our favor through my lens. So I don't have the expectation that we are treated the same. Through my lens, when I look at this rich billionaire man, I say to him, so what was wrong with just being like Black, rich, and famous? Why did you have to conduct yourself in such a way that you have basically relinquished your freedom and your legacy? Right? Because we're not going to talk about all the good that he's done in his life. By the time this trial is over, he's going to be just, he's going to be a disgrace. No matter how it shows up, no matter if he's found innocent, because we saw that tape.
Oh my God. Let me drink my beet juice.
Let me drink my H2O.
I'm looking at my cousin's comment. Let me see.
Comment.
Saying, he says we have to teach our children and grandchildren, but I think he's trying to say, and please correct me, Carrie, I think you're saying that we have taught our children and grandchildren to look at these people in the industry as heroes and role models. I think that's what you're saying, right? Please correct me, because that's what it looks like to me too. And maybe
looking at them. That's right.
Yeah. And I'm going to say this because I know that there's the race card that is being pulled a lot of times. It's like, well, why is Trump still walking around? Hell, I still have the same damn question too. But you know what? We're taking down the Black man and blah, 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 blah. And where, I stand for Black power all day long. But if he didn't do the crime, then I would be standing for him. And like you stated, like, why is it like a eureka moment for you to understand that the system is built this way? There's going to be a harsher punishment for people who look like us. Historically, it's been a harsher punishment. Why are you in like, oh my God, this is happening? Even as he was walking in his Black skin with his billions of dollars, why didn't you think that the system just disappeared because you had the money? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's almost like, where's your common sense? But does ego get that inflated where you just lose all your scruples? Like, I'm confused.
Yes, it does. And when it comes to, I protect women before I protect Black men. So when we talk about, this is the Black man and he's, in the system and this wouldn't happen to him, I can't hear that. Because I see the victims. Right. I was a victim. I wasn't one of his victims, but I was a victim. So I can't hear, well, you're not supposed to do that because that's our brother, that's our son. F that. Because what I saw, right, we all saw, and what we all didn't see are all the other times that he did it to her and others. So I'm standing for the women because Cassie is representative of hundreds, if not thousands, okay? And not
Yes,
just from him, other men like him.
correct.
Puffy replicated the wrong man. He replicated the wrong man because what he has shown, what he has taught a community of young people is how to be flashy and the ego and not to respect women and to do all it. Like he replicated the wrong energy. It wasn't enough positive that he laid behind him. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
His trail behind him. He didn't, there's not enough. He just replicated the wrong things. And
Yeah.
so
Fair.
I don't care. Because the black man, that billionaire black man stomped on that girl's face. I
That
don't
part.
care. I
Yeah,
don't
no. And I don't care either because when the thing is this, and this is something that Cat Williams said, but who cares? Because it's just real. There's going to be evil and there's good. And that's going to be in any type of skin tone, whatever race we come in, right? So if you're committing evil acts, we are against that, period. And I also
period.
want to make note that not only are there, allegations against him against women, but there's also allegations against him in men. So, we cannot forget our brothers who are also kind of subject and prey to this power trip as well. Anybody who's a victim, and also kind of give a shout out to the men who have
Absolutely.
actually spoke out about it because it is
Absolutely.
so stigmatized
Ugh,
when men go through the abuse too, and they do, so it's heart breaking, if you will. I do want to address some of these comments.
of course.
um Matthew, what's up, Matt? He says, right, he wasn't thinking about black love when he was abusing black women and men. Hello, hi.
Hello.
Hello. Uh,
Yes.
my brother Willie McLeod was good. Puffy is a coward.
Yes.
Uses money to mask his insecurities. You know what? That's so real. I was
Mm,
thinking about, like, was he like this insecure cat coming up?
mm,
Is that where this comes from? Like, I don't get it. But there's also this thing that people who are against capitalism, right? They say
mhm.
that no billionaire or millionaire actually got their money the right way. They had to step on other people to get there. What do you think about that?
I think that if you are climbing a ladder and people are climbing behind you, the odds of you stepping on someone's fingers are going to be high because you're climbing and therefore you might be stepping on someone's fingers. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about someone who is being accused of sex trafficking, of kidnapping, of racketeering, arson. You know what I mean? That's different. So him becoming you can't become a billionaire unless you step on someone's toes. Yes, I can see that. You have to step on someone's toes, but you don't have to rape people to become a billionaire. And you don't have to rape men or women. And you certainly don't have to then get on Instagram after your video is televised and admit to that.
What? They said that he learned the behavior from Clive Davis. Like, that's how the industry was. So when he was coming up in that, trying to get to the levels, they committed these type of acts with each other so that they can, sleep their way to the top, if you
I
will.
could see that. And I mean, sex is sex. And if he wanted to have sex with Clive and anyone else, like that's not who am I to judge? You know what I mean? Like that to me is not like a bad thing. That's just a personal thing. And now we
Unless it was
know the person.
non-consensual, though.
It wasn't consensual. So
No, when you're trying to get to a certain place in your career,
oh, like
what do you, what you say?
casting couches, like back in the day, when actresses would audition for directors, there was a thing called the casting couch, and you have to Google this, Miss Crystal. And the ladies, it was a secretive, known thing that if you wanted a certain part, then you get on that couch. Google it. It's an old tradition, but what you're describing with Clive and possibly with Puff is the same, along the same lines, you know? And it's like, yes, I want to get to the top, so I'm going to have sex. That was almost customary. We were in the dark ages, okay?
Oh, so now we're definitely hitting the light. That's for sure.
Yeah.
God, I never have heard of that, so I will be looking that up.
And to this point, I want to also say real quick that there was a friend of mine said, well, the women should not have gone, you know, to the studio, like the new person who, you know, has a new allegation. Well, why did she go? She should have known. She should have known. Why would she go? And it's like, well, she went to the studio. That doesn't mean she's supposed to get raped by two people. But his point was, but this was commonly known behavior, right? Which I did not know that to be true. However, his argument is like, well, she knew this was what the potential could be. So almost as if, well, she should have known better than to go.
Ooh, Lord, this is a touchy one, because I do hear that rhetoric. I do hear like, okay, they knew what they were getting into, you know, or you hear, well, Cassie stayed with him for 10 years or however long she stayed with him. You know, I hear that rhetoric, or why wait so long to say something kind of similar to Dawn Richard or Richards. I'm not sure how her last name is pronounced. There is that question. And, you know, it reminds me also of the question of, okay, if I'm scantily clad and I'm walking through the streets, or if I go to bike week and I'm scantily clad, what do you think is supposed to happen, or what's going to potentially happen to you?
No, being brutally attacked sexually, being sexually assaulted, being drugged, being beat up, those should not be the consequences of you going to a studio to meet up with a guy who, you know, who you kind of like have a thing for, or if you go to an event. Sorry, that should never be the consequence, and it's not okay. And as far as going back, digging in the crates and going, oh, come on, Chanel. As far as going back and digging in the crates and bringing back something that existed so long ago to the present time, I'm here to say this is the time we're living in. In 2024, this is commonplace. In 1994, no, we wasn't going back in the 60s, digging up no dirt nobody did. But this is what we do today, thanks to the good old internet. So it doesn't matter. So again, my answer to all of that is like, it does not matter. We are here now. He is sitting in jail. And Crystal and I and everyone else, we're sitting out free and enjoying our Thursday evening.
Oh, I'll drink my beet juice to that. Okay, we got some comments from Chanel, and we also have one from Zakita. Okay, Chanel, the bigger concern is how was he able to get away with it for so long, and what made him think he was untouchable? Girl, preach. Seriously, it's that money. It had to be an ego trip. All right, let's see what we got.
Chanel, he would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for the lawsuit from Cassie coming up first, and then of course that tape. But I think if neither of those things occurred, he could still very well be, you know, doing his thing, unless it's true what I've heard, that the FBI has been on to him for years and he's been under surveillance for years. So
I also heard that, and this is hearsay, obviously, that when he sued that company, the liquor company that he was partners with, and accused them of racism, that sparked off like, oh no, we're going to get you now type of situation, and you're going down because we know what you do. Racism. So allegedly he's pissed someone off, and that was the last straw. So I don't know what it is. I don't even care. So cheers. All right, let me see. I can totally see that. I think this type of behavior has been going on in industry for a long time. A lot of stuff is coming to the light because of the carelessness, and I really don't think that they care about what they do to our young children as trying to come up in the industry. Of course they don't. I can remember some of the things that Stacey Saw talked about how they blackballed her out of there and out of the industry because she would not participate. Who's Stacy?
Yeah, who's Stacy?
Thank you
That's
for that.
Stacy Star.
Okay. What in the world?
That's a great comment. I want to know who Stacy is.
Yeah. Quita. Oh, Stacy Ladisaw. Stacy Ladisaw. Let me go Google that too. I mean, she has a beautiful voice.
On a two-way street.
Casting couch and
Got it. Casting couch, Stacy Ladisaw.
Ladisaw. I'm going to be on the Googler after this. Okay. Thank you, Kenya. Not everybody believes it could happen to them. Next thing you know, it's happening to them. By then, they are probably embarrassed or scared. That's facts too, Matt. That's true.
That's right.
A lot of us don't know what takes place. So I feel like this, and I only feel it because I don't know it. But there's a relationship between an abusee and an abuser, right?
Talk about it.
And there's a dynamic that plays out, and it's almost like they can attract to one another. So like I don't know what the person is thinking who's being abused. You don't know how they've come to that standpoint in their lives and continue to be abused. You don't know how they think. We can't put us on them.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, oh, if you're getting abused, why don't you leave? Like, I don't know what their mental, state is or how they were raised. They could have been normalized in their house.
But being a survivor of DV,
okay,
it's so complicated because the person you love just hurt you and violated you, right? And so you're dealing with the shock of, I can't believe you did that to me. And not only am I standing here gasping for air because you just choked me, but I'm not done loving you. So I'm hurt and I'm angry and I'm mad because now I have to go public and let people know that you did this to me, but I still love you, but I don't want to love you, right? So it's an extremely deeply complicated thing. That's why a lot with law enforcement, they play hands off when it comes to domestic violence situations because the emotions that are involved. So if Cassie was with a man for 10 years who was putting his hands on her, that would probably be the reason why, because she had a bag of emotions to deal with. And think about it. Who could she go to? Who could she go to that would believe her? Does she talk to a therapist and put the business out and run the risk of the word getting out that he's beating her?
And a lot of them actually knew it. Like they were allegedly she was getting abused in front of others and they weren't doing anything either. I heard a story today that Diddy adopted a young white girl like way back or whatever. I think her name may be Ava, don't get me wrong. But she was adopted by them and she's on her TikTok right now speaking about her experience when she started to get abused. Again, I don't know if it's true or not. But she was describing how she was being abused at the moment and she was looking around for support, like the security guard that was with him and this person there. And she was looking at them like, can you help me? And one person just looked on their phone. Somebody was spinning around in their chair. So, it's right. Like who could support you? You don't know, especially if there's a ring, hence the racketeering allegations, right? Because there's a ring that's, all in on it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Oh my God, Lenise, I'm a survivor of DV, sexual assault and child molestation. You are correct. Oh, I'm so sorry, my love.
I'm so sorry. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, for real. Hey, Adrian. Oh my God. Oh.
What are your thoughts about the bail hearing? $48 million. He wanted to post one of his homes along with his mother's house to get out of bail initially. And then that package was denied, and then what is it? So then they appealed, the attorney appealed that first hearing, and then they had their second bail hearing with a different judge. And then that package was also denied because the second package was the enhanced version where it wasn't just the $48 million worth of real estate. And I must again repeat, his mother's house was a part of that deal. He wanted to put his mother's house up so he could get out of prison. But the second package also included like security would take away everyone's cell phones and laptops, and we will make sure we have a list of names of people coming, entering. Like they tried to just sweeten it up, but the second judge was like, no, girl, that's not happening. So what do you think about him, being denied bail?
I think it's just the same old habits. I think that he has been able to pay off people. So he's just used to being like, well, hey, I got money, I could do what the hell I want to do, and this is going to be an example of that. I'm just going to just offer the money because like I know that this government runs off of that. So I do think that that's what he's used to. And then I also heard that they did not let him out. And this is where I hear like on social media, why is it that he doesn't have bond? It's unheard of. It's about because he's a black man. No, I don't believe that. I believe that he's not let out because he's known to tamper with the witnesses. So like say if they let him out, you saw that he called, what's her name? Kalena, part of Dirty Money.
Yes.
The Dawn Richard's partner. He called her 54 times before she made that statement to be like, my name's Bennett and I ain't in it.
Right.
So like, no, he's gonna get out and try to tamper and try to silence people. And even if he's not saying, if he got to do it in sign language to people around him to go execute, that's what he would do. Anything to get out of the situation, because I don't think he ever saw himself in jail.
No, he didn't. And I don't see him out of jail, since we're on that topic. I think when he casually, did you see the way the feds scooped him up? They just swooped in when he walked in the entrance of the hotel a couple of weeks ago. But I think that when we saw him get detained, that was the last time that we would see him, because I honestly do not see him coming out, because I feel that he's been under surveillance for years. Right. They know who they have. They know who they want. There's so much more to come that we have yet to see. I don't think he's coming out.
I agree. And Adrian, yeah, he is a flight risk. A lot of people are saying that. Chanel said the same.
He should have flew. He should have flew. When the case hit in November and he paid it off, that's when he should have flown away. On your Google list, Crystal, write down Roman Polanski. Roman Polanski was a famous director, 1970 something. I think it was 1975. He was the husband to Sharon Tate, who was brutally murdered when she was like 9 months pregnant by a cult. They came to her door and they tried to cut that baby out of her stomach. You have to Google all of this. But the point, Roman Polanski he was into young girls, 13, maybe 14, maybe 12. And so what he did when they indicted him, or when they brought his charges up, he left the country, never came back. Never came back. He could have did Roman Polanski.
But no. But he though, because I think that they mentioned something about international, like something, he did something internationally and that was mentioned. But also I think that's kind of what like Russell Simmons did. He kind of skated out, right? He was in Bali. But I heard that he was served. That was like last month or something, that he got served in Bali. I don't know how. I'm gonna look it up.
You got a long Google list.
What? But I don't know, because like, does the jurisdiction go that far, like across the pond?
No, he would have been safe if he would have got off of this good old green land, but he didn't. And he admitted guilt, which was also shocking in his apology video.
That. have a question, and I'm kind of pedaling a little backwards, and I know we're going to get off in a minute. What do you think about on social media? I'm seeing a lot of women, and they're very much like, I'm so sick of Cassie. I'm so sick of these women coming out talking about this. You just want a payday. What do you think about women who think about this type of stuff?
Well, I think that it's hard for me to judge people who have, those kinds of opinions about women. And I mean, judge women who have those kinds of opinions about women. But I think it's unfortunate because what we saw in the video was actual and it was factual. Everything else, like, we'll have to really like peel back the layers to get into all of the rest of the things. But if you are ever a woman who has ever experienced being physically manhandled by a man whom you could not defend yourself against or even inflict, the same level of pain that was being inflicted upon you, then you would probably make that statement. Because if you've ever been in that situation, it would be impossible for anyone to blame a woman, for staying in a relationship or wanting a payday. It's only a payday when the person has money, right? So it's just because he has money and she files a lawsuit, she wants payday. Well, yeah, she's dealing with a rich man. That's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, punitive damages. Like, what else can you sue for? Like, what else could you actually?
Right. There's nothing else.
Right.
And in this country, we fight. We hit the pockets.
Right.
That's the ultimate fight in this country. Press charges. Okay.
Right.
You throw some mayonnaise at me in Walmart, I'm gonna press charges before. Well, I'll probably throw something back. But I'm gonna press charges.
Yeah, like I'm probably gonna. Yeah.
And I'm pressing charges, right? So, but that makes me think of Carisha, and I think Carisha did a horrific disservice to women by stating that she could not make a comment on anything that she did not experience herself. I think that was socially irresponsible of her because she is a woman and she saw that video. And if she did not want to implicate her man or anything in that statement, she could have easily just supported Cassie. She could have easily supported any woman who has ever experienced any type of physical, emotional, or sexual abuse at the hands of a man. She dropped that ball. And so
now she signed an NDA because he was a king of NDAs too.
Absolutely. And she could have supported without being in violation of whatever contract she signed. So I think that's unfortunate. And like I said, any woman that opposes any victim in these types of situations, I imagine that they just never know. They just don't know what it's like.
Right. And yes, there are some people, because like there's evil in everyone, right?
That's
no matter sex, race, or whatever. Some people will try to take advantage of the situation, just like this guy who, I think he's a white man, who dropped a book about like saying it's from Kim Porter, and it's turned out to be a lie. But you're just trying to capitalize on the situation. So that is that. But my rule of thumb, I'm always going to believe the victim first until proven otherwise.
Amen.
That's my rule of thumb. I know we're going to wrap this up.
It went by so fast, Crystal.
So fast.
Surface. And all your friends came through with the bomb comments and questions.
Oh, yes, God. I'm so glad that everybody in the comments, like you were just chiming in so you can add to the conversation, because I love conversation, and I just needed to talk about it with somebody. And I'm just like, oh my God, Nicole, will you talk to me? And then we can talk to our friends.
And since you had to Google some of the things that came up in this conversation, will you post them? Would you find? Or your feedback or anything? Because I'm curious to hear what you have to say once you, do your research.
Yes. I'm going to, hopefully, I don't know if this will stay on my page or not. I have no
We
idea.
can make it stay because
I'll
you.
show her.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, because I don't know how this part works. But I am gonna come back to what I've discovered in this conversation. I want to thank everybody. Let me just first thank you, Nicole O, for being my partner. And I swear to God, y'all, we did not choose our outfits like on purpose. Like we just showed up like, okay. So like random. But like I always appreciate you and your
Thank
thoughts
you.
and your points of views. And I just also I love my audience. I love my Facebook friends. I've gotten into a place where y'all I rocks with y'all, you know,
You got
and
some bond friends.
I love
Okay.
them. And yes, you too, right? So yay, thanks
Thank you
everybody
guys.
for tuning
Thank
in.
you. Good night.
Time. Bye.
Bye.